buddy, Dr. Corey Singer here today to talk to you about office ergonomics. So first of all, I want to tell you why it's important to have good ergonomics, or what ergonomics means, first of all, is how you're sitting down, particularly at your workstation. So why is office ergonomics even important? The first thing you have to realize is you're supposed to have these certain curves in your spine when if you're looking at it from a side view. So in the neck, there should be a curve that comes up like this, so comes to the back, and that would be called a lordotic curvature, or a lordosis. There's supposed to be one here. There's supposed to be a kyphosis in this mid-back here, which is like a small round curve going the other way. And then in the lower back, there's supposed to be, again, a lordotic curvature going this way. And those are designed to act as springs in your spine to kind of keep you upright and keep good gravity in your spine. Now, a law that you need to be aware of is, it's called Wolfe's law. Pretty much what it means is if you hold position for an extended period of time, over 20 minutes is the actual number that they give, the spine will actually start to take whatever shape that your curvature has been placed in. So when you're sitting at your workstation, people spend 6, 8, 10 hours a day sitting at a workstation, and then especially if you're adding in, watching Netflix or whatever, you're doing a lot of sitting during the day. So it's going to be important for you to realize how to actually sit down properly. Now, what I want to go over right now is what are some improper postures, right? So you can see here the type of chair I have is actually just like a stool type of chair, but you could use different types of chairs, and I'll go over those in a second. But let's say that you were sitting down and you were hunching forward like this. What's going to end up happening is your mid back here is going to start to develop that curvature, especially if you're sitting like that for a longer period of time. So that's one improper way to do it. Another way that can cause problems is, let's say that your workstation is sitting low. Okay, so if your workstation is sitting low and this part's good, but let's say you're like this and you're working like this, or you're looking down at your keyboard for a long period of time, what ends up happening is instead of that good C shape that's supposed to be in your neck, you start to develop reverse C, and you could actually measure those in X-rays. Those are some improper ways to sit down. Also, if let's say that you're sitting like you don't have your elbows that are at the proper position. That could be a problem too, for different reasons in the hands. But let's say your wrists are propped up like this for long periods of time. I don't know if you can see that. They're propped up like this. It's going to start to create pressure and strain in the actual hands themselves, can create carpal tunnel syndrome, things like that. So those are some improper ways to sit, slouching like this, leaning forward. If you're sitting on one leg, that can cause different problems, particularly in the legs. Lots of different ways you could sit down improperly there. Another big problem that I see is when people are holding or carrying a wallet, particularly a gentleman, you put that in your back pocket, and then when you sit down, you're actually placing your pelvis in an improper position for an extended period of time. That's not a good idea to do for your lower back. So it places your hips out of alignment. That's one problem with that. So now we have some of the bad ways you can be sitting. Oh, I'm gonna do one more. Is if you're sitting down and you're crossing your legs over like this, and then you're at your workstation, that's another way that's going to create strain in your lower back. So crossing your legs up high, bad idea. If you want to cross your legs, cross them low. That will be in a better position. That'll put less strain on your lower back. So now I went over some of the bad positions for your spine. We're going to start talking now about the proper way to be sitting down. So the first thing we want to look at is, okay, what kind of chair are we using? So you could use a stool, that's fine. I like a stool. The reason I like it is because it forces me to engage my core musculature when I'm sitting down. So that's one reason that we want to use it. You could use, I'm going to bring out a couple here so you can see it. You could use something like this, where it's a spinning chair here. It's got some lumbar support in the back here, which is fine. or you could use just a standard chair like this, your standard chair. Okay. Now I'm just gonna use the stool for my demonstration. Now I mentioned core posture when you're sitting down or engaging your core musculature. It's a really good idea. That's why I like this. Now to add on to that, you could also use a balance cushion to do that as well. So you could place this beneath you, and then when you go to sit down, now you're actually engaging your core muscles as you're sitting down and working at your workstation, which is a principle called inducing motion. When you're sitting down and you're inducing motion, that also doesn't allow for that plastic deformation to start to happen, where your spine is placed in a definite position for longer than 20 minutes. Now your spine's moving regularly, making it so that your spine's not gonna hold that new position, that new shape. So it's keeping it moving, which is a really good idea. So you could use this for this demonstration. I'm just gonna not use it. So now let's say that you. The first thing I want you to understand is you're supposed to keep your eyes at the level of the top of your monitor. Okay, so if you're using a computer for your daily activities, which most people are, so eyes to the top of the monitor here. The reason for that is pretty much like I mentioned. You don't want to keep looking down like this. So you want to keep your head in a nice neutral position with your ears over your shoulders. Let's say that you're using a laptop, or like this is a free floating, and let's say your desk isn't at the right height because you want to keep your elbows at a nice 90-degree angle, which I'm going to talk about more. You want to keep your elbows at a 90-degree. Now you want to make sure the top that's right there. So to do that, you could just get like a couple of books, like a stack of books, and that lifts it up. Small box will do it. That just raises up your computer desk to a nice, good position. You also want to make sure, like, let's say that you like I said, you want to keep your wrists flat instead of kind of pinched up like this. Now, let's say your elbows landed here, right? You want to make sure that you have something supporting that so it's not, kind of cropped up. So you can get like a small cushion for your wrists to do that as well. Talked about the balance cushion. Now, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but remember how I mentioned there's a balance cushion? You could also use a chair that's called a ball chair, and it does that same idea of keeping your spine moving in a normal position. It's called a ball chair. So you can look those up online. Another real simple principle, you want to make sure that your desk is pretty clean. You don't want to be having a lot of stuff kind of thrown all over the place. This is a productivity tip. Now, you also want to make sure that we're inducing motion. So my rule for sitting down at your workstation is you want to do 20 minutes of sitting with your hips at a 90-degree angle, your knees also at a 90-degree angle, and your elbows at a 90-degree angle. So that's the key for this, okay? So hips, knees, and elbows at a 90 degrees with your head in a nice neutral posture, okay? That's the most important thing. You're gonna sit like that for about 20 minutes. You could use the balance cushion to keep moving if you'd like to, but at least at 20 minutes, you're gonna then wanna stand up, and you wanna do a lot of people can actually have a standing workstation. Standing workstations are really great because they actually allow you to stand up instead of sitting down all day long. So that takes some pressure off your lower spine. So you'd go 20 minutes sitting. If you had a standing workstation, your whole workstation would lift up with you, and then you'd be standing up while you're working. And then you want to do that for about 8 minutes if you can. And then after that, you're going to want to stretch your whole spine, maybe do some postural exercises that I've shown, or maybe the exercises that I've given you. You can do those for about 2 minutes. So we got 20 minutes seated, 8 minutes standing workstation, and then 2 minutes doing some type of stretching, movement, and postural exercises. That's really important. Now, you could also combine more motion with while you're seated. I have this thing called the QB here. It's underneath my work desk here, and pretty simple. You place your feet on this guy, and you could just exercise and actually get your heart, your blood flowing through your body, and while at the same time you're working. So you could do that. I've also seen people using like if you have a standing workstation, I've seen people use a treadmill underneath their workstation, which is a good idea as well, because that can keep your spine moving. And what's good about when you're doing this is you're actually engaging your muscles, and number one, it's going to keep you awake so you can do your work, and number two, engage you and it'll help you focus a lot better when you're working. The QB here, you could also, it has cool like settings. You could change the intensity level from like 1 intensity to 10, or sorry, 8 for this one. And you can find that online, okay? And now if you're gonna be doing a standing workstation, I wanna make sure that your feet are supported. So make sure you have like some sort of like cushion or a mat underneath you so that you're supported underneath your legs there. And the last thing I'll show you is when you're using this balance cushion. Let's say you're using it under. Let's say you've used it for 20 minutes. You know, like with this. Then you could also use it as a back support, or you could use like a rolled up towel. If you're going to use a back support, obviously this would be with a chair that has a backing to it. You'll make sure your elbows are at a 90-degree angle. Where the lumbar support is. So it's not too low, it's not too high, it's right where your elbow lands in the middle of your spine. And that is how you do office ergonomics. Enjoy.